So, welcome everyone. Welcome to today, our day of meditation on the 2nd of May 2026. And as I mentioned before, I'm coming to you from Winjabul country on the Bundjalung Nation of northern New South Wales, Australia, which is otherwise known as Lismore. And I'm acknowledging and paying respects to the traditional and custodians of this land, the Winjabul people. So today I'd like to explore the theme of healing and awakening and see how these two, often considered as separate pathways, are considered as the one, perhaps. And it's coming from some experiences that I had recently. I wasn't going to give this talk, and then I had these experiences, and I thought, wow, I have to talk about this. This is a good topic, and so it was an experience of how these two approaches kind of merged into one pathway, and I guess what we'll be doing today is inviting you to consider healing and consider waking up, because I feel like they're overlapping processes. And something about healing. We'll do two guided meditations before we set in for the day of silent meditation and a Dharma talk. But the two meditations I'd like to provide or offer is one about having a sense of being cared for, like experiencing that felt sense of being cared for. So because I want to give this offering, because in my experience as a clinical psychologist for 35 years, and prior to that I was a body therapist for 10 years, in my experience of working with people and also practicing on the path, and also my own personal experience, is that for us to heal from, say, a difficult experience that we've had in the past, a shattering experience, or something that was maybe threatening our life, or even threatening our sense of well-being or a sense of self that we have, that is, to heal from that, we require a sense of feeling safe. That's the beginning of that healing, I think. Or at least there must be some sense of being okay somehow. And, in Buddhist practices, we talk about the four Brahma-viharas, or the four divine abodes, loving kindness, or I prefer to say warm benevolence, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. I think that these qualities, these practices and qualities represent that sense of being connected and feeling safe. In the Buddha's teachings, there was an occasion where Ananda was the Buddha's attendant. He'd often say things to the Buddha, and the Buddha would say, "No, you're wrong, Ananda. It's not like that." But anyway, on this occasion, Ananda said, "I think, comradeship, friendship, community is 50% of the path. Is that correct, Bhante?" He's talking to the Buddha. And the Buddha said, no, you're wrong. It's 100% of the path. It's the whole path. To have friends, to have good friends, to have support, to have the Kalyana Mitta, or, spiritual friends, graceful friends, is all of the path. To be in community is all of the path. So I guess that for me, that means that to have a felt sense that we're connected, and that we also have each other's support, is really important. So I know that in healing, I've worked as a clinical psychologist for 35 years. I've sit and listened to lots of people talk. Hopefully, I think I've done more listening than I've done talking, I hope. But I've listened to a lot of people, tell their stories. And sometimes I just don't do it much at all. I just sit there and listen to them. And, they'll go through their processes and often burst into tears or have some sort of an expression of something. And I think a lot of the possibilities come because I can sit there and listen to them. Listen to them with a good intention. It's not listening to them with a, how long have I got to go and how much money am I making right now and all the rest of it. It's listening to people with a sincere intent, a compassionate intent. And so I think when we have that, when we actually can feel that we're listened to or heard or connected or have a felt sense of being cared for, we can heal. That gives us the resources to face up to whatever issues are in our lives, or sometimes kind of stuck in a past experience somehow, a stuck experience of a fight or flight or freeze response, for example, somehow not really being processed or whatever. And this is what happens in trauma. A lot of times we have an experience and it kind of goes into our psyche and into our body-mind continuum, and it just gets sort of stuck there. And what happens is we get triggered by things that remind us of that event, but it's kind of being reminded of something stuck in the past, which is really a lot of suffering for a lot of people. I mean, including myself. I'm not talking about people out there. I'm talking about us as humans. We have difficult experiences, and they become entrenched, and they block us moving through the path. So I guess I'm kind of coming around to the importance of this first meditation. And this meditation, I'll invite you to tune in to a felt sense of being cared for. Because just as an offset here, another kind of direction, when you read about or listen to people talk about mystical experiences or moments of awakening, or even people when they're talking about, say, psychedelic experiences, because I know that's like a doorway to different perceptions, often there's an expression of feeling connected and a felt sense of something on the, it's sort of within us, but it's sort of without us as well. It's like enveloping us in a sense of being, okay, we're loved. I mean, that's a tricky word because it means so many things, but there's a sense that we're covered. We've got our back covered. We're loved and protected and supported. So this is, I mean, they talk about it in profound ways with mystical experiences or moments of awakening, I suppose, where it's a profound sense of being connected. And I just remember reading a lot about the Christian mystics and, like a connection with God. Or, from a Buddhist perspective, you could say a deep understanding of dependent arising. But there's this sense of connection. So this first meditation I'll invite you to will be basically a metta meditation. And I'll be inviting you to recollect a sense of being cared for. Or if you can't recollect it, imagine how it would feel. And if you can't, or you could go into a sense of, say, as we care for other people. And I know, there's some, I was talking to Victoria earlier and she's a new mum. There's what it's like to love another being. This is unconditional sense of being, supporting another. So putting yourself in that, being receptive of that same unconditional care, if you can. And if you can't, well, so be it. That's the way it goes. I mean, please bring a deep peace to that. But it may require just a moment of recollection of some situation, of something someone cares for. I was thinking about this morning. When I lived in Armidale, I was invited to give a workshop, actually. It was a workshop with people in drug and alcohol services. And one of my friends invited me. He was a counsellor on that service. And we were doing it at the hospital. And there was one evening when I was leaving, I opened my car door to put my gear in. and somebody drove past me and hit me. They struck me with a vehicle. So I ended up on the ground, and I think I broke something. I can't remember completely. But my friend could heard the crash and came out and looked at it coming out of where he was packing up in the room, and he saw me, and he was so caring. He was really concerned about my well-being and welfare. I mean, he almost carried me into the hospital. I mean, I could walk. Nothing was damaged on my feet. It was upper body, and the driver of the car was actually drunk. And he was off somewhere else. Well, he was kind of hovering around, but he didn't know what to do. But my friend just kind of looked after me. I felt really cared for. Perhaps you have something like that in your experience, or you can imagine what it might be like. Anyway, I'll be inviting you to access that sense of a felt sense of being cared for in whatever way you can, and then connect with the field of self-care. It's like, I think in mystical experiences, it's not like just in here. It's like it's everywhere, and we're just kind of merging with it. Merging with this sense of it's okay, that it's part of the universe, or I belong here, if that makes sense. I don't know how else I can express it. But anyway, that's the first meditation. The second meditation, I won't go on for a great length of time here. Basically, it is, I'll invite you to just come into the moment, come very present, and get that sense of just this, just now, and to tune into direct experience, the direct experience of this, rather than our constructed conceptual experiences of me in here and it out there, if that makes sense. That sense of not constructing a separate self from everything else, and a separate me in here and yous out there. It's just a sense of being completely present prior to conceptualizing about it. I mean, I think that's the aim of most Buddhist meditation practices, to get to a sense, it's called signlessness, and in what I've read and what I've understood about Nibbana is the unconditioned, which is what all Buddhist practices aim towards realizing, the realization of the unconditioned, which is it is signless, meaning that it is not based on concepts. You can't conceive about it. You can't engage in mentalizing it and even describing it. It is signless. It's prior to conceiving about. So the features of Nibbana are signlessness, emptiness. Emptiness here means, not a thing in of itself. We are conditioned. There's just causes and conditions coming together, and there's no thing in it all. It's just this dependent arising. And I always say this, and because I think it's really meaningful. Every time I say this, it rings a spark in me. It sharpens an awareness and an insight into something. But this is the way Lee Brasington describes dependent arising, and you can also use this to describe emptiness as well. Streams of dependently arising processes interacting, meaning that there's no one thing in anything. The experiences arise out of causes and conditions, and the coming together of these causes and conditions, including our intentions and so on. And there's no one single independent experience in all of this. It's the way, I guess you could say it is the Buddhist way of describing God. If you could do that. Not that there's, the Buddhism doesn't talk about God. So it talks about, yes, it does talk about God, sorry, but it doesn't say that God's responsible for everything. We are just the coming together of causes and conditions and flowing through processes. So look, this second meditation I'll probably invite you to what I like to do on a daily basis, and I just like to go through the first number of steps of mindfulness of breathing, and I get very relaxed, and then really find that tranquility, and then just come into this moment. And sometimes I do this by just being present with the senses. Other times I do it by just focusing, like narrowing my attention down, getting more and more concentrated, and then just coming to a point at my nose tip where I'm aware of the breathing coming in and out. Those of you who've done mindfulness of breathing will be aware of this. And then there's just that moment, just this moment. And things might come up, and just come back to this next moment, this next moment, this next moment, this next moment. And in that way, there's a sense of not buying into signs. You're so present with the experience that it becomes, prior to conceptualizing about the experience, it doesn't, not long into it, you lose this idea, oh, there's my nose tip, and there's the air's coming in, and I'm touching the membranes at the end of my nose, and so on. That kind of falls away, and there's just bare experience. And then the experience of me in here experiencing that starts to fall away, and there's just the experience. Okay, so clear as mud? Okay, and you can hear me all right, can't you? I forgot before when I was talking to you all individually, I had my microphone over to the side, but I've got it in front of me at the moment. So I'm going to turn off the recordings. Oh, by the way, I'll just a bit of something about the day. As you know, we'll do 2 guided meditations, and if you want, you can just segue them together. I'll ring the bell to indicate the beginning and the end of the various meditations, but as I just said, if you want to just stay seated or in the particular posture you're in, like whether you're lying down or seated or standing or whatever, please feel welcome to do that, and we'll just move on to the second meditation. And then and I'll ring the bell at the beginning and the end of that one. But in between the two, if you feel like you need to move, I'll just give it a little bit of a space, like maybe a minute or two. You can stretch, do what you need to do. And then after that one, after the second meditation, we'll have a silent meditation. And then we'll have a break at about 20 to 11 or quarter to 11 Australian Eastern Standard Time, which will be in about just a little bit over an hour from now. And then we'll come back and I'll provide a Dharma talk that I've created with the assistance of AI. I'm using AI these days because it's so good. It writes much better than I do. But I give it all the information, and I give it all the words and the information. It kind of sorts it out into a nice structured way. So I'll give a Dharma talk, I'll offer a Dharma talk, and then we can either have discussion or more meditation. And then we'll have lunch at 12:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time, and to 1:30, which is, you can go offline if you like, just come back at the end of, at the time. And then at 1:30 we'll have an hour sitting of either two half-hour sits or 1 hour sit. I'll ring the bell on the half hour. And then at 2:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time, we'll have some discussion. Okay. Thanks very much. Okay, I'm going to, if any questions about that, everyone's all right, all good?